Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers Preview. That's right, the Steelers Preview. What are we previewing? Well, tonight we're going to talk about the rookies. We're not really previewing rookies, but that's just the name of the show. Joining me, as always, to round out the triumphant trio is Dave Schofield. Dave, how's it going this evening?
Hey, I'm here. There's still football to be played at some point. I mean, aren't you guys totally amped for this Pro Bowl on Sunday?
Heck yeah. I know Bryan Anthony Davis is. Bryan, welcome to the show.
Pro Bowl game face. Bowl game face. I've got the party already. It's gonna be Prince like it's 1999, baby.
What would be the party etiquette for a Pro Bowl? Is it the same as a Super Bowl? Because I know you're getting the article queued up. You do it every year for BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Is Pro Bowl etiquette the same as Super Bowl etiquette? I'm just curious.
It's just show up because no one. You know what? In the history of my life as a fan, I have never had anybody watch the Pro Bowl with me.
But
I've always watched it alone. Usually, I do. I can't say I've watched it every year like I do the Super Bowl. But oh gosh, it's coming though. We're like 10 days away from the greatest day of the year for me. I have been gearing up too because I've been watching past Super Bowl, Steelers Super Bowls for the site, and I'm publishing those articles. Wow, it's glorious. If you get a chance to go back and watch old Super Bowls, it's awesome.
And this past weekend, my family was in town, and so my brother and my sister-in-law, my parents were in, and we were just sitting there. There's nothing on TV, and so I pulled up YouTube on the TV and I said, I'm going to show you all the greatest drive in Pittsburgh Steelers history. Just out of curiosity, what drive did I pull up? Bryan, I'll start with you. See if you get it right.
The easy drive that I'm thinking of is from the 10-yard line in Super Bowl 43.
That's right. That is correct.
It's gotta be.
I can't think of any now. Granted, there might be one from the 70s that I'm not fully aware of because I wasn't alive. But at the same time, that was because people forget that was a holding call in that drive.
Yeah.
In a first and 20.
But also, and right before that,
the safety.
A holding in the end zone.
Chris Kimoyatu with the hold.
No,
safety.
it wasn't.
Yeah, it was a holding. It wasn't. It was a Hardings.
It was no. Jeff Hardings was gone.
Hartwig.
It was Justin Hartwig.
Justin Hartwig. There you go. That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yep.
And then shortly after the safety was Larry Fitzgerald splitting the defenders and racing into the end zone, and everyone's thinking, "Holy cow!"
You know what was tough about that?
What?
Because I love Larry Fitzgerald. I'm a Pitt fan. I'm a Pitt grad.
I get it.
I love Larry Fitzgerald, and I love Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
And I would have been rooting for them. That'd be one team that I would root for in any Super Bowl. That team with those guys on it, just not when they're playing my guys.
It was a great story, but the Steelers had Dave. This quick question I asked my dad and my brother this: you think Ben should have been the MVP of that game?
Yes. End of story. Yeah, I do.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why he didn't get it. I mean, that whole drive. Now, San Antonio had an incredible drive. That drive was remarkable, but oh my gosh, it was tremendous. I thought if there was any year that they could have done co-MVPs, it would have been that one. Have they ever done that before?
Yeah,
really.
Actually, they had 3 one year for the in Super Bowl 13. The Dallas Cowboys had Randy White, Harvey Martin, and there may have been a third. I actually think there was a third.
Wow. Well,
but I know Randy White and Harvey Martin were the 2.
Real quick, before we get started with our show and the topic of today's show, Shield 91 puts $5 in the tip jar and says, have a good long drive tomorrow. I'll save the stream for that. Have a good show, guys. Shield, thank you always for your support. I hope you're enjoying this show on Friday.
Actually, let me say real quick, Super Bowl 12 before anybody corrects me. I realized I got it wrong.
It's okay.
Hey, I took a lot of grief for correcting Jeff on the length of the field goal. But here we were both wrong. It was 41.
Oh,
it was missed. It was 40. You said 43.
I said 43. You're right. Yeah.
And I actually went back to check it. It was 41.
Oh my gosh.
And it was only 2 guys. It was Harvey Martin and Randy White in Super Bowl 12.
But still co-MVPs. All right. Yeah. So today's episode headline title is the 2019 Pittsburgh Steelers rookie review. And something that we always typically do during the season and even in the offseason when we start breaking down the Steelers roster position by position, that's what we do. We preview things. We kind of dig into one specific topic. And so today is going to be the 2019 Pittsburgh Steelers rookie class. So we're going to go round by round, pick by pick, and we're going to just talk about, I know a lot of people say, well, Jeff, you can't judge a rookie after 1 year. And I agree 100%. I'm not asking Dave and Bryan or anyone in the live chat watching on YouTube to say, project where they're going to be in 3 years. I'm saying, how did their rookie season go? Do you guys want to grade it on an A to F scale, or do you just want to just give some tidbits about it? Bryan, what do you want to do?
I think we could give tidbits.
Okay.
I really don't think we have to give a grade, but if you want to, we can.
Well, because I know exactly what Bryan's going to want to do. He's going to give every single one of them what they should get, an incomplete, because it's very difficult to judge on your rookie year. I was like, we can't throw that one out there.
Well, hey, our producer Lance Williams just said grade it in the live chat. So,
all right,
we're not allowed to use incomplete.
Yeah, I can't use incomplete.
Okay.
What ifs are for losers, anyways. Okay. All right, the top pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers moved from 20 up to 10. They trade with the Denver Broncos to get none other than Mr. Devin Bush from the inside linebacker out of Michigan. Gentlemen, grade it. You can give some tidbits before your grade, but if you were looking at Devin Bush's body of work in 2019, Bryan, we'll start with you. How would you view it?
Well, if you look at Devin Bush, the fact that they traded up for this guy, and they also gave away a pick this year, your number 3 pick, when they're getting ready to pick number 3, it's not going to be there. It's going to be the Denver Broncos. And you know why? Because that's part of your Devin Bush trade. But you should be happy with that because that's everything you wanted. I saw somebody today talk. In fact, I think it was an email that I saw that one of my other counterparts, Dave Schofield, got saying that Bush is too small and should be moved to safety. And I'm like, look, no, this is everything you wanted out of this guy. He goes sideline to sideline. He had a touchdown this year. He could have had another one. But as a rookie, he did more in the I don't know of a rookie that has achieved more on the defensive side of the ball better than Devin Bush Jr. And I'm including Troy Polamalu because if this was 2004, after the 2003 season, you're probably giving this guy a C- at best, Troy Polamalu. And we're talking about him in the Hall of Fame next week. This guy had a wonderful rookie year. I was actually surprised. He made the all-rookie team, and I was surprised that he didn't have more consideration for the Pro Bowl because he's thought of across the league as one of the future stars on defense. So, I have to give this guy an A-.
Okay. Dave, thoughts on Devin Bush?
B+.
No tidbits, just a great.
Honestly, I was teetering between a B+ or A-. I basically said I'm going to give whichever one Bryan does it only because I thought he had a fantastic year. And did I not hear that he said at one point he was an alternate for the Pro Bowl if enough people would have bailed out? I thought there was a report out there but I'm not sure.
Maybe about the Ravens. The only bad thing about the Ravens not making the Super Bowl is a lot of guys missed out on.
That they could have maybe
like 12 spots
that they could have filled in with them. But once again, I thought he had a very good year. I should have probably bumped that up to an A- because the only reason I didn't give him an A was because of what the Steelers did to get him, because of the trade up and the no pick this year. It doesn't mean he disappointed me. It just meant that he has much higher expectations than I'm going to have from almost any other rookie. And he met almost all of them. There is room for improvement, but I thought he had a very solid year, and I'm really looking forward to see exactly more how they're going to utilize him with the same thing that Bryan mentioned, where someone contacted me about saying he's too small. He can't stop the run. He should be a strong safety. No, that's not what the Steelers didn't move up 10 spots for him to be a safety. They moved up to draft a linebacker. And your linebackers have different roles. I really like the combo of him and Vinny Vici together, seeing what they can do after Bush now has a year under his belt. I think the sky's the limits for the combo.
Wes in the live chat says that Dave just looked. Bush was named a Pro Bowl alternate, so you were correct.
Thank you, Wes.
Yes.
He always bails me out with good stuff.
A lot of people are Sir Lancelot, who's in the live chat. He's comparing Bell to Kendrell, or I'm sorry, he's comparing Devin Bush to Kendrell Bell, number 97, and he was the defensive rookie of the year. Kendrell Bell had a remarkable rookie season. I mean, that was incredible. No one saw his ankles not holding up the way that they did.
No, and he was fantastic. And that's a guy I forgot about. That was 2001, I believe.
Yeah.
And Casey Hampton was the first rounder that year. So that was a pretty nice draft.
Absolutely. I'm going to give Devin Bush a solid B. I think he has a ton of potential. I think that Mike Tomlin limited him a lot this year. Not so much that in actually he didn't really hide it. Tomlin said this often in his press conferences about with these young players and with these rookies, you have to sometimes you have to pull them back, rein them in a little bit. And you saw more of Devin Bush reacting in the second half of the season. I think that his arrow is definitely pointing up. I'll give him a B. So we're all in about the same realm in terms of picks there.
One more thing about Bush, he didn't have to do as much because of the presence of Mark Barron also. Whether you like Mark Barron or not, and we're going to have a slew of people in the live chat saying he's garbage, cut him. But he was there and he had some very productive games, and they didn't have to force him into anything because you had Bush, Barron as well as Bush.
No, you're right.
Well,
go ahead, Dave.
One other thing you got to remember about him, I was trying to pull up one last thing about him. He led the team in tackles this year.
Mm-hmm.
He led the Steelers tackles. And not only that, he had over 100 tackles. He led all rookies in the NFL in tackles. And he led the Steelers in tackles. And how long has it been since the Steelers had a rookie with 100 tackles? It's been a while.
You know what? So, here's a good exercise. Dave, this is right up your alley.
Mm-hmm.
Compare his rookie season to Ryan Shazier's.
That's what I was kind of thinking about. That I believe he had a stronger rookie year than Shazier. I don't definitely have the numbers right in front of me to back that up, but from what I'm just going from memory, I do believe that he did.
I believe so too, from memory.
Shazier's rookie year was very up and down, and he had a lot of learning. I think Devin Bush is more polished coming into the NFL, but we'll see. So let's move on. Go ahead,
but Jeff, he had more than 20 more tackles as a rookie than what Kendrell Bell did as a rookie.
There you go.
So I mean,
he didn't play in every. He came off the field a good bit. Still, let's keep that in mind.
It always seemed like he found a way to get to the ball. So.
That was his MO coming out of Michigan. Like Bryan said, sideline to sideline, finds the football, good in run support. Coverage, he got exposed a little bit, but I think that'll only get better because he's athletic enough. All right, let's move through here. No pick in round 2. They gave that one away. So then we moved to round 3. This was the Mr. Antonio Brown trade pick with the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders. And they took wide receiver from Toledo, Deontay Johnson. This was the famed pick that Dave started cussing up a storm when they made the pick, and it was horrible.
I still don't want. I don't even want to talk about this right now.
I mean, he broke his laptop. He broke a laptop.
People are going to start believing you.
There's rumors of a three-state shooting spree, but that didn't happen. I'm here to tell you, he kept it under control. Jeff and I had to talk him down off a ledge, but it was okay.
We got him. We got him back. How
you? It lasted a whole 4 seconds.
That's right. But
you will never get those 4 seconds back.
The Deontay Johnson hate page on Facebook still exists. All right, Bryan, how would you grade Deontay Johnson's rookie year?
So back in July, we were previewing the rookies. And maybe it was June or July, we were looking at Deontay Johnson, and we said, if this guy gets 30 catches and 3 touchdowns, it's a fantastic rookie season for the production that he's going to get. Little did we know that what was going to happen. And maybe the fact that Ben Roethlisberger went out benefited Deontay Johnson a little bit more. Maybe the fact that Juju Smith-Schuster had some injury struggles benefited him more. But if you look at the season and you have to put wide receiver 1 on somebody for the 2019 season, it's Deontay Johnson. So I am giving this pick an A as well.
Okay, you justified it perfectly, Dave. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is what Bryan was saying is that he seemed to exceed expectations. So I know yardage wise, he had a real nice rookie season. I was trying to figure out where he comes just on the flat up receptions range, because that's a really big deal. And honestly, he had the second most receptions from a Steelers rookie.
Yes.
With the only one. Yeah, I was going to say, because Troy Edwards had the most in 99 of 61, and then it was John. He had more receptions. He had one more reception as a rookie than Juju did. Now, he didn't have the yards that Juju did, because Juju had, how many? He had what? He had a 97-yard touchdown in there. So, but I would say, especially with the kind of receiver he is, that, I mean, he had some nice deep passes as well, but he exceeded my expectations. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go with an A- on this one, because I think the biggest thing that could hold him back was that his quarterback situation. Not that could hold him back, that was holding him back. And so once again, it's going to be nice to see what these guys do whenever keep our fingers crossed whenever number 7 is back under center next year.
Yeah, I mean, I tried not to listen to Dave when they drafted Deontay Johnson, because he was all ticked off. And I was reading a lot of people on Twitter, on different websites, stating how this guy is really comparable to Mr. Third and Fifth, Mr. Richard Gummies, Mr. Antonio Brown, just by the way that he plays the game, in terms of how smooth he is in and out of his breaks, his route running, his explosiveness, his agility. Boy, was that all on display, even just as a rookie. And people forget, and it's a 3rd-round draft pick, that Antonio Brown was a 6th-round pick. But Antonio Brown was not making these type of plays as a rookie. He made the team. He's a special teams guy. He was a returner. It wasn't until his second year that he started to come on. I think Deontay Johnson is a budding star in this league. I give him an A for his 2019 season, as everyone said before me, totally exceeded expectations, and that's a good thing. So Deontay Johnson gets an A. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I'll go say one other thing interesting about him. I'd have to go back and compare to maybe I'm pretty certain he's the only one on the team. He had a reception in all 16 games this year.
That's an interesting little tidbit there.
And here's another thing that you got from him in that Arizona game. You finally found a punt returner. And that was a big deal, because, I mean, everybody talked about how smooth Ryan Switzer was with receiving the ball and protecting the ball, but he never moved with it. He was kept in for a catch. Mm-hmm. But, Deontay Johnson gave you a little more of a return game towards the end of the season as well. So that's that 6th touchdown that he got, because he had 5 receiving, if I'm not mistaken, and that extra touchdown. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely love what he did.
Well, because just to speak on your return, little tidbit, I've been saying tidbit way too much, Seth. Is that they're going to run into the same problem they had with Antonio Brown, and the same problem they have with Santonio Holmes. And that is, when you have a prolific wide receiver, how many times are you going to want them back there returning punts? And eventually you're going to have to try to find someone else to do it. That's just, maybe next year you're fine. But at some point you're going to say, is this worth it? And every player that I just mentioned, Santonio Holmes, Antonio Brown, they eventually said it's not worth it. It's not worth risking injury. So we're going to get somebody else. So although, yes, Bryan, I think it's great that they found someone that could do it. I don't think it's a long-term answer, because he's going to be a prolific wide receiver. Dave, go ahead.
No problem.
He was second team All-Pro as a punt returner, and he only had 1 return before week 10.
That's pretty good. He just makes
one return before week 10.
He makes people miss.
Yeah.
Like, and it makes it look effortless, and that's something that is special. I don't think
as long as he holds onto the ball.
That's the key.
That was his problem early, and that's why it took a little bit of time before he got the reins.
All right. So there we go. Now we're down to the second third-round pick. This was the Steelers' natural third-round pick that they were given in their natural draft order. And with a third-round pick out of Michigan State, they take cornerback Justin Lane. Now, this is the part of the draft class where things don't get as long-winded because some of these players are not going to be as impactful on the roster. And Justin Lane would fall into that category. He did make the team. He bounced in and around the inactive list and game day actives, but by the end of the season, he replaced Artie Burns as the gunner on special teams. Does that show a little bit of trust from the coaching staff? Do they start to believe something in him? I don't know. Guys, your thoughts on Justin Lane? And this is going to be one of those dangerous situations where we don't know what he can do because we didn't see anything this year. But what are the projections in your mind looking like? Bryan, we'll start with you.
If we look at projections right now, I'm going to give him a C, a solid C. And that's for projections. I mean, because really, this is where Dave, is right. And that's where the incomplete comes out. Because you just didn't see a lot of them. But really, the fact that you mentioned trust, Jeff, that's a big deal. He was in there a whole lot more. He was not a liability. I think he had one play that was suspect, or maybe it was a penalty, but we just don't know enough. But I think he's in the equation. You also have to remember, for the first time in years, they had depth at corner.
Yeah.
I mean, you have two guys. You have one guy in the Pro Bowl now in Joe Hayden, and the other guy that's not in the Pro Bowl is because he was the lockdown guy and he didn't get a lot coming his way, and Steven Nelson with a great free agent pickup, one of the best in years. So really, if you're looking ahead, this guy could be a future player for this team, but what he did on special teams is good enough for me to say C with an arrow pointing up.
Dave?
It's a C. And if you look at this, well, that's mainly because this, like Bryan said, he's the perfect candidate for the incomplete. What did we say about him after the draft and leading into the season? And what did we want to see from him? We wanted to see him not be forced into any action because he needed some time to develop. How many defensive snaps did he play in 2019? 0. We got what we asked for exactly from him. But not only that, he was inactive a lot of the season, and then he was, as injuries happen. Artie Burns was out a couple weeks. Artie Burns comes back. Guess what? It's still Justin Lane, because he, not only was he adequate, you noticed him as the gunner out there. When you had him and Johnny Holden out there as gunners, they're talking about these guys on the television broadcast because they're both doing such a good job. So he got the experience. He got to be on the sidelines. He got to be ready. He got to do the special teams and did not have to play a defensive snap. It's exactly what we wanted to see from Justin Lane in 2018.
Yeah, I'll toe the company line and go with a C and think that if I'm grading just his special teams, I guess, I don't know. He wasn't noticed. There was that one penalty, which I think was against Cleveland, and it was on a punt return maybe. He was literally a heartbeat early, and they called him for interfering with the fair catch or something like that. I think it was the halo rule, but so we'll see. And that's sad to say, and I hate saying that for the listeners out there, but we don't know. We don't know what Justin Lane is going to be as a cornerback, but as of right now, we would all say that the arrow is pointing up. So we go into round 4, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they want a running back, and so they get one in Kentucky running back, Benny Snell Jr. Benny Snell did play. He was hurt in 2019. He missed, I think, 2 to 3 games with a knee scope, and when he came back, he was at 3 games, Dave tells me. When he came back, he was a different player, in my opinion. So, Bryan, grade Benny Snell's rookie year.
I'm actually going to go positive on this and say I'm torn between B- and C+, but I'm going to go ahead and give him a B-, and it's because of his rushing average towards the end of the season. I think it was a whole lot higher because Jalen Samuels was absolutely horrendous towards the end. You weren't getting much out of you really weren't getting much out of James Conner because of his injury situation. So this guy was your guy at the end. And he was that player that as the game got longer, he was getting stronger. So I would, I'm sorry, I just Don King'd it there with the rhyme, but he was a guy that they were starting to count on. I'm not sure really where his future is, if he's a feature back, but I could say from his performance last year, B-. If we're looking at the future, I'm probably saying that this guy's a solid backup running back.
Okay, Dave, what about you?
I'm giving him a solid B, and it could have been more if he wouldn't have missed time. He did kind of what we thought could end up being. We said, didn't we do an over under on how many carries he would get in the season?
Yeah, I'm sure we did.
And it was
no recollection.
And wasn't it a question of, did we say 80? Because didn't we say that would be 5 a game? I'm thinking.
Yeah, you know what?
I think we did 80. And you know how many carries he had on the year? He had 108.
Wow.
So, I once again thought that he exceeded expectations, and he was the guy. He was the guy late in the season when the Steelers had a lead and wanted to run the ball. That's who they gave the ball to. And he did great in that situation. I think, especially coming off of a rookie year, and you know the difference between year 1 and year 2, this guy has the potential to really be something special for the Steelers and take away the whole notion of one feature back all the time getting 97% of the carries. We've seen it. We don't think that that's the kind of player James Conner can be. I know some people were screaming for a running back with the Steelers' first pick in the draft. I'm thinking they've got a crowded running back room, and I think the basically 2 rookie running backs that they had this year have so much potential that I don't even know that I call this a position of need for the Steelers. If you look at using it in a different way than they have in years past, we don't have a Derrick Henry. I don't see Benny Snell being a Derrick Henry, but I see him with some other people working together to have quite an effective running game.
I'm going to give Benny Snell a C+. But I want to put a caveat to this and say that I'm really excited to see his second year, because every running back that I can think of under Mike Tomlin, it's their rookie year. They come into the NFL thinking they need to be bigger and stronger because they're pros. And then all of a sudden they get there and they realize I need to be faster and more agile. Snell, I think, has the vision. He needs to match. He needs to drop some weight. Will he lose some power? I don't think he'll lose a ton of power, but he'll be able to get outside. You saw some of those, especially in the preseason. You saw some of those cuts to the outside, which might have worked at Kentucky in that SEC division. It's not working in the NFL. Those linemen are too fast. They're going to get to you quicker. And in the second half of the season, he started to get acclimated to the NFL game. I think his second year is going to be good. I've said it before. I'll say it again. If Randy Land is open to the fact that running back by committee is a possibility, this running back situation that they have with Connor, Snell, Samuels, White can be good. It can be really good. I still believe that. So, but I gave him a C+ because I thought that he did deal with an injury and he did see limited time, more time than we expected. But nonetheless, I think that he can be a lot better. We'll put it that way. So anything else on Benny Snell before we move on? All right.
No, I concur.
Plowing through. Let's shorten these up a little bit to get through this quickly. Round 5, they finally go to tight end. Most people thought they would go to tight end before the 5th round, but they find Michigan tight end Zach Gentry. Didn't play much as a rookie. Bryan, Anthony Davis, go ahead.
I'm going to give him a D-. I hated this pick from the get-go. This was an opportunity. They could have actually still taken another linebacker in Mac Wilson at this spot. That was a guy that they still could have taken. They could have taken Hunter Renfrow, who was a pretty good wide receiver from Clemson, and who towards the end with Oakland, got a lot of play. I just they liked his length. They liked how tall he was, But really, I mean, he made a couple catches in the preseason. He didn't get a hat most of the time. I just don't think when they're projecting the tight end situation, no one's projecting him to make a move in year 2. So I'm not going to give the guy an F because he made the team. And I mean, he made a couple Sundays, but a D-.
All right, Dave.
D- as well. He had 1 reception for 4 yards. Granted, it was a 3rd down conversion. But the biggest thing is when the team that typically dresses 3 tight ends and they're constantly choosing to keep him inactive and only go with 2, you've got a problem. I mean, but they weren't using the tight end anyway, so that was a waste to have 3. But maybe part of the reason we're using tight end is because, I mean, he wasn't giving them anything. I was extremely disappointed in this pick. The tight end that I wanted them to draft late in the draft went to Oakland before the Steelers could make this pick. I was disappointed in that with Foster Moreau, who had a great year in Oakland as a rookie. And when I look at someone like that and what they could produce, taken in the same round just before Gentry was taken, I felt like the Steelers just reached on. They had set in their mind they were going tight end in the 5th, and they just took whoever they had. I don't know that this is a guy that's going to end up being. I wouldn't be shocked if he's not even on the roster next year.
Can I jump in real quick? I've got to do a Dave Schofield here.
I was going to say Wes agreed with me. He just put that up there too.
It was not in the same round.
Oh, was it?
It was a compensatory pick in the 4th round.
Oh, it was at the very end of the 4th. Okay.
Foster Moreau was pick 137. Zach Gentry was pick 141. I normally wouldn't do this, but
I knew it was close, but I was thinking the Steelers were late. But no, that's right. They had that early 4th round pick. How did they get that? Why was that such an early pick? I'm trying to remember.
That was from he's Mr. 5th.
He's Mr. 5th.
He was Mr. 5th. That's right. He was Mr. 5th. And that was I knew they were only just a few picks ahead of him, and I was thinking they were later in the 5th. But you're right. He was technically in the 4th, like one of the last picks in the 4th and versus one of the first picks in the 5th. But yeah, I don't know that he's going to make the team this year. But they also are really struggling at tight end as well. So he might end up on the team just by default, unfortunately.
Bryan, it was a 42-yarder. Get it right.
Yeah. See, that's the
wrong. It was a 41-yarder.
I
corrected you like 4 times to start the show. This is no problem with it.
I'm going to change my name to Sad. It's called Spiteful Anthony Davis.
I honestly, Zach Gentry, I agree with what Bryan said, where he said both of you guys didn't really like the pick. I didn't understand the pick because everything I read about this individual, and it came to fruition when he got to Pittsburgh, he doesn't do anything exceptionally well. Give me a Matt Spaeth that can do nothing but block, and I can deal with that, and I like that. Give me someone that has a lot of athleticism, but is not more of your inline tight end. I can live with that too. He can't do either. I'm not sold on this guy. I'm going to give him a D- just because we haven't seen much, but I didn't like the pick in general. So there you go. Let's move on to the 6th round. The Steelers had 3 picks in the 6th round. They started off with a guy who did not make the team. He kind of had a heartbeat there in the middle of the season for a little bit when they brought him back, and then they shipped him off again. That's none other than linebacker out of Northern Illinois, Sutton Smith. Bryan Anthony Davis, Sutton Smith, everyone's favorite Swiss Army knife.
I absolutely loved this pick when they made it. I mean, I was celebrating this guy in another one of their 6th round picks, but it didn't work. He was hurt. Then they brought him back, and Dave used to always crack me up because when we would talk about him being picked up, and then he was gone. He's picked up again. And
one day, one time. It was
it's like back and forth. I mean, he was always there, and I think he was like the Steven Johnson and LJ Fort that year, a couple years ago, where they kept on getting cut for each other. So
but this was being cut off the practice squad.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. Yeah, so you have to really give this pick an F because he didn't stick, and there's no upside.
Of course not. He's not on the team. Dave, go ahead.
I was going to say F-, but no, F is fine because. Seriously, once you get to, 5th round is a little shaky. When you get to 6th round and beyond, you don't know if these guys will even make the team as a rookie. And the fact that they had 3 6th round picks and 2 of them did make the team, isn't terrible, but this one wasn't. They saw something, they took a chance, they saw some versatility, and it just wasn't there.
Here's why, to me, this pick is an F, because I understood if he didn't make the team this year, but two things occurred. Number one, was not immediately signed to the practice squad. So that tells me that not only did they cut him, they didn't see enough promise in him to keep him in the organization. Second, they didn't even sign him to a reserved future contract this offseason. And last I checked, and I could be wrong, he's not on an NFL roster right now. They could have, at the end of the season, said, hey, we like what we see. We might be able to turn you into a special teams guy, anything. And they stated they didn't do that. So that's an F. Sutton Smith is an F. In the second of their 3 6-round picks, they take Alabama defensive lineman Isaiah Buggs. He actually made the team. He actually saw some significant time after Stephon Tuitt got hurt. Brian, what are your thoughts on Big Pooh?
I love this pick. I loved it back then. Having more sacks than Quinnen Williams, his final year in Alabama. We didn't see a lot of them, and once again, he got some significant time, but you didn't notice too much because he's one of those grinders down there in the trenches. But he wasn't Frazier from the year before. He wasn't Josh Frazier. He did a whole lot more. He has a future on this team, and you're going to see a lot of them. So I'm actually going to give this pick a B.
All right. Dave, thoughts?
I like the pick as well. I was trying to look up to see exactly how many snaps he played, but he was a guy that was inactive early, and then Stephon Tuitt gets hurt. They sign LT Walton, and you're thinking, oh, well, I guess it's going to be Walton instead of Buggs. No, it was Buggs. They still thought more of Buggs, and he got some playing time. Now, was that the Rams game? They decided to go with one less defensive lineman, and he was inactive. But that was based on their game plan, and I think because they knew they were going to they weren't going to be playing hardly any base defense. So, but he did. I thought he did fine. He played in 9 games, and I think he had I think 3 total tackles. But I was trying to look at how many snaps he played. I mean, he had 4 different games where he got double digit snaps, which for a rookie on the defensive line working your way in, I thought he did just fine. I'm gonna give him. Let's go C+.
Okay. I was going to give him a solid C because from what I saw, it wasn't horrible. He didn't play as much. Tough to gauge. So you go right there in the middle of the road, right in the happy median. I think he's going to have a good opportunity in 2020 to put his stamp on the defense as a primary backup. Maybe if he can show some versatility and flex into the nose tackle position, that's something that Tyson Alualu has shown that he can do. And that way, they don't necessarily need it because we're assuming they're going to lose Javon Hargrave. That way they wouldn't need to go pick up another nose tackle. They could maybe just have some versatility on the defensive line. But I thought Buggs, hey, like you said, Brian, not Joshua Frazier. So to me, that's 2 thumbs up. So, all right, let's move on. The last and final 6th-round pick for the Steelers was none other than, was it Akron? Is that where this Ulysses
That is
Gilbert?
correct.
Yes.
Oh, he was
Akron,
yeah.
Inside linebacker Ulysses Gilbert III. That is the love child of, what did we say, Brian? The
yeah, what was it? Ulysses S. Grant and Marcus Gilbert.
I mean, you could have gone with Melissa Gilbert. You could have gone with Sarah Gilbert. You went with Marcus Gilbert.
We hadn't said Ulysses Gilbert III in a while, so I figured I'd bring them back.
I forgot all about that.
Ulysses S. Grant and Marcus Gilbert. What a love child that would be. Okay, Brian, go ahead. Ulysses Gilbert did make the team. He did play special teams. He was a good special teams guy before injured and being placed on injured reserve. So, Brian, grade Ulysses Gilbert III season.
Loved his preseason. Loved the fact after he got hurt, the things he did for his school and for the Florida community right before Christmas, buying lots of gifts and doing a lot of things for people. Quality individual. The fact that where's he going from here? So I think he's a solid special teamer still. I don't think he's going to start for this team. But I like this pick. I'm giving him a solid C.
Dave, go ahead.
I'm actually going to go B- because of, I mean, he didn't play any on defense, but what he did on special teams. He played the first 7 games of the season before having problems with his back and going on IR. He was leading the Steelers in special team snaps through that time. That he was playing more than the core special teams guys. So this guy has now made it to where the Steelers don't have to offer a contract to Dirty Red. They have that depth at inside linebacker that is a special teams guy, and then see where he comes along in year 2. I like his potential as much as anything, but in the time that he was able to play, I thought he did everything that they wanted him to on special teams.
I'm going to give him a B as well, because we all said the same thing. He's a special teams guy. He played well on special teams. I actually thought that he could be good depth at inside linebacker, like Dave just mentioned regarding Dirty Red, Tyler Matakevich. So I'll give him a B. And so we'll see if he sticks around. Hopefully that back, because that stuff scares me. When you have back injuries that require injured reserve, that tells me there might be something a little bit deeper. I hope that it's not something that sticks around and maybe cuts his season short again.
The great thing about this guy was the fact that with Barron coming in and with Bush, they're like, this guy's just a camp guy. He has no chance. He's like, hey, not so fast, my friends. I'm going to do it. And he really turned heads, and there was no way that they felt they could cut him.
He gave them no out. That's the thing. Like, and you've seen this before. Like, Mike Hilton was the same way. Everyone's like, how are they going to keep this guy? You can't get rid of him. He's made so many plays. You can't. He did not prove. They did not regret that outside of him getting hurt. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go to the last pick, round 7, University of Maryland, the Terrapins, Derwin Gray. He did not make the team out of camp, but was signed to the practice squad and stayed there the entire season. He is labeled to be a very versatile lineman, could maybe go to guard, could maybe be tackle. Bryan, thoughts on Derwin Gray?
Bah. D- at best. I was going to give him an F.
Well, he's a practice squad guy. I mean, you really can't grade him. You just more looking at what is the ceiling for Derwin Gray?
Maybe fighting for that last spot on the 53-man roster on the offensive line. I mean, maybe with some guys departing, he's a backup, but not a sexy pick. But who else are you taking in the 7th round?
Yeah,
there's not a lot there, so I'll go with D.
All the Colin Holbas were taken in the 6th round, so in the 7th round, you're stuck with the Derwin Gray from Maryland. But Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go with like a C- because I don't want to tear up the pick. I mean, it's the 7th round pick. I mean, the Steelers' 7th round pick the year before didn't even make the practice squad. The Steelers had a 6th round guy that didn't make the practice squad. He made the practice squad, stayed there all year. There was no need to move up a lineman other than center. They moved up one, and then he got poached to Denver when they released him, and they had to move up a different one later. So he didn't really have the opportunity, but he's got a futures contract. So that just tells you that his story is going to be more about this season.
I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you guys.
He's the classic incomplete. He really is.
No, you're really right.
Yeah.
And I just, when I was writing these down today at work, as we were having our group text about our rundown and stuff, we'll call it our production meeting, right, Bryan?
Yeah. Dave's like, I don't care. Just leave me off. He's like, Deontay Johnson. He heard rookies who's having Johnson flashbacks.
Gosh, 9 players selected by the Steelers, and only one of them in Sutton Smith is not somewhere in the organization now. So that's not bad. You know, I mean, we're not going to grade the rookie class or anything, but I wanted to go pick by pick. We have a lot of other stuff to go through. A couple things before we go over to the after party, where we'll have just some discussion about some other stuff, some Steeler stuff, some non-Steeler, well, a lot of non-Steeler stuff, but we'll always start with Steeler stuff. Let's get into some trivia right now. David, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
You have multiple or just one?
Oh no, well, it's kind of a two-parter. It's really short.
Okay, here we go. Fire away.
I want to make sure they have everything up in front of me. It's very simple. Let's go back to, we've been focusing a lot on the Hall of Fame and everything else. I'm still riding high, really happy about Donnie Shell getting in. Do you all remember we talked about this on several different shows? How many career interceptions did Donnie Shell have?
51, I believe.
51. Yeah. Wes looked it up to confirm this because I'd heard it. That's the most in the NFL by a strong safety. And it's third all time by a Steeler while someone was a Steeler. There are two other people that had interceptions in the 50s. Can you name who they are?
Are we talking career or with Pittsburgh?
Career with Pittsburgh.
With Pittsburgh.
Meaning so in their whole career, but only in their career with Pittsburgh.
Okay, so would Mel Blount be one of them?
Oh, yes. Mel Blount leads the Steelers in interceptions. Do you know how many he has, Brian?
I'm going to guess 56.
You're very close. It's 57.
Okay. I don't think Rod Woodson played in Pittsburgh long enough to get that many. So go ahead, Brian.
This is not a Jeff question because it's way more. He doesn't like the old guys.
Oh, it's like 1945.
I'm going to say Jack Butler.
Brian would be correct with Jack Butler.
I met Jack Butler.
From 51 to 59, so that's what I knew Jeff would do. And he had 50.
The Butler.
Yeah, the Butler did it. He had 52. Here's what's crazy. There's a massive drop-off to number 4. From Donnie Shell's 51, Jeff already mentioned number 4, which I was going to ask.
Hot Rod?
It's Woodson. Do you know how many he had as a Steeler?
I'm going to guess in the 30s.
36.
Brian's very close again, and Jeff was right in the 30s. It was 38. So you've got 3 Steelers with 50 interceptions or more as a Steeler, and then there's none even in the 40s. The next one would be Rod Woodson.
Carnell Lake, is he close?
Carnell Lake. I'm looking for Carnell Lake. Why do I not even see him on this list?
He should be there.
While you're looking, what number did Jack Butler wear? Was not a traditional corner.
Wasn't he in the 50s? No.
80.
80. He was number 80?
He was number 80.
Huh. Never would have gotten that right. I mean,
sorry, I had to hit down to the next group. How many interceptions do you think Carnell Lake had?
Well, not many as we thought.
28?
25.
16.
Yikes. Carnell Lake sucks. That's why he was such a bad
All right, that's fighting words.
I've got a trivia question for everyone out there, and I think that it's one of those where I talked about the helmet before. I've talked about why they changed from block numbers to italicized. A little bit of team history here. Now, most people know that what year was the Pittsburgh Steelers? Art Rooney founded them in what year?
33?
1933. It's on the hat that Mike Tomlin wore the most this year and everything. But they weren't called the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1933. They were called the Pirates. Now, my question is, at what year did they change from the Pirates to the Steelers?
They were the Pirates from 33 to 39.
I was going to say 1940. They were the Steelers because then that's when they got into during the war, and a couple years later with the Steagles.
43
and Card Pit was the other one.
The Pit Cards or
Cards.
Yeah,
it was.
I think it was Card Pit, and that was 44.
Yeah,
you are correct. And Brian, you said up until 1939 because 1940 was their first year as the Pittsburgh Steelers. These are trivia questions that you see someone that's a Steeler fan, you can ask them these simple questions. Maybe they don't know that they were the Pirates originally in 1933. And maybe if they do, that how long were they? Now you know, till 1940.
What was the original name of the Pirates? What were they before they were the Pirates?
They were a name before the Pirates?
I believe they were the Alleghenies.
Really?
If I'm not mistaken. We need to check
that sounds familiar. I can't confirm it, but I'm saying that does sound.
Let's check that. I mean, I think I'm close. I think they were, but I mean, unless there was a different team, maybe it was a minor league team or something different. But
okay,
good stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Good trivia. All right, real quick, Bryan, this will be the last thing that we're going to talk about in this show, and then you can go over to the after party. We're going to talk about Super Bowl prop bets. We are going to talk about some heavy stuff over there, and a little Eli Manning talk I want to get into. That'll be all in the after party, so make sure you check that out. But Bryan, you wanted to talk about the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And this, not the Pro Bowl itself, but you wanted to talk about how the Steelers, and well represented by the defense. Go ahead and talk about what you want to say about the defense and them being down in Orlando.
You know, I think this Pro Bowl is very pivotal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are very united down there. You see all the pictures with them together, but you can see how tight they are, and especially with Joe Hayden getting down there as well. It's a situation where it feels to me that this is almost a little conclave for them. It's a meeting where they go back to everybody else and they feel even more united. The one thing that you hear from each and every one of them is like, we have so much unfinished business to do, and how special they feel being a Steeler. These are 4 great representatives for the team. And I think this weekend is actually going to carry over to May, July, August, and beyond.
I'm sorry. It's so funny because poor Jefferson here in the live chat. I do want to say one thing, but I like what you said about the Pro Bowl, but I do also want to say that.
Oh, I thought it was me.
That Ron confirmed that it was the Alleghenies. So you were correct on that. I think you got a great point about this with the camaraderie, with the leadership on the defense. Keep with the way these guys are handling in the Pro Bowl. And Jeff, I'm going to tattle on you to your mommy if you don't behave yourself.
Oh, I've already told his wife, like before. I've told on him to his wife, and his wife, like, you got to be nicer to Dave and Bryan. She would say that.
In terms of the Pro Bowl, I've been reading and listening to interviews, and I think it's pretty cool that they're all defensive players down there. And trust me, those guys want to get better. They see the potential of this team, and so it's going to be fun to see. So, all right, that ends this episode. The Steelers preview is over. My mom's in the live chat. Oh gosh! Before she starts telling stories, we'll get.
Oh, yeah, I'm sending her an invite.
She needs to come to the after party. She needs to come to the after party.
Send her an invite, Dave. You have the power. You can do that, can't you?
He doesn't ever email. Anyways, all right. So if you are not going to join us in the after party, we thank you for listening to this show and reviewing the 2019 Pittsburgh Steelers rookies with us. We hope that you subscribe to our channel by going up to the top, hit subscribe, go hit the bell, and then set up your notifications however you'd like. It can be a push button notification on your phone. It can be by email. And by all means, if you want to help out the show, just hit the like button. We really appreciate it. And if you're listening on audio platform, always follow the show, subscribe to the channel, give us a good rating and a good review. It all helps in the algorithm that are things like Spotify and iTunes and YouTube. So make sure you check us out. And for those of us that will be joining us in the after party, we'll see you shortly.